Introduction. The concept of food addiction. Food addiction is a term used to describe the compulsive consumption of certain foods, often leading to overeating and cravings. It's a growing concern in modern societies where highly processed, energy-dense foods are widely available. But what exactly makes certain foods addictive? And why do some people find it harder to resist certain foods compared to others? The role of sugar in food addiction. Sugar is one of the primary culprits behind food addiction. When we consume sugar, our brains release dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This creates a feeling of euphoria, which can make us crave more sugary foods. Over time, the brain's reward system becomes conditioned to expect this surge of pleasure, leading to repeated cravings and, in some cases, addiction. The impact of fat on the brain's reward system. Fatty foods also play a significant role in food addiction. High-fat foods stimulate the release of both dopamine and opioid-like compounds in the brain. This combination results in heightened pleasure and can make fatty foods especially hard to resist. Overeating these foods can lead to changes in the brain's reward system, reinforcing the cycle of consumption and addiction. The influence of salt on cravings. Salt is another key ingredient in making foods addictive. Similar to sugar and fat, salt enhances the flavor of food and triggers pleasure responses in the brain. Many processed foods are loaded with salt, which can make them more enticing and increase cravings. The more salt we consume, the more we may desire salty foods, leading to a cycle of addiction. Highly processed foods and their addictive properties. Processed foods, which are often high in sugar, fat, and salt, are engineered to be hyperpalatable, meaning they're designed to taste as delicious as possible. This combination of ingredients stimulates the brain's reward system and can lead to overeating. The more frequently we consume these foods, the more likely we are to develop addictive behaviors, making it harder to resist them in the future. The role of emotional and psychological factors. Food addiction is not just about biological cravings, it's also influenced by emotional and psychological factors. Many people turn to food, particularly comfort foods, as a coping mechanism for stress, anxiety, or depression. This emotional connection with food can create a cycle of reliance, where the brain associates eating certain foods with relief from negative emotions, further reinforcing addictive behaviors. Genetics and food addiction. Genetics can also play a role in food addiction. Some people may be more predisposed to addictive behaviors due to differences in their brain chemistry. For example, variations in the dopamine receptor gene may make some individuals more sensitive to the pleasure-inducing effects of certain foods. This genetic predisposition could make it more challenging for these individuals to resist food cravings and avoid overeating. The role of marketing and food availability. Marketing plays a significant role in making certain foods addictive. Food companies use advertising strategies to promote highly palatable, calorie-dense foods. This, combined with the widespread availability of these foods in grocery stores and fast food chains, increases the temptation and ease with which we can indulge in addictive foods. The neurobiological mechanisms behind food addiction. The brain's reward system is central to understanding food addiction. When we consume pleasurable foods, the brain releases chemicals like dopamine and serotonin that make us feel good. However, the repeated consumption of addictive foods can lead to neuroplastic changes in the brain, where the brain becomes wired to crave these foods more often. This can make it harder to resist these foods, even if we know they're not healthy. Breaking the cycle of food addiction. Overcoming food addiction requires addressing both the physical and psychological aspects. Strategies such as reducing the intake of processed foods, mindful eating, and improving emotional regulation can help break the cycle of addiction. Additionally, creating a supportive environment, including healthier food choices and reducing exposure to addictive foods, can help individuals regain control over their eating habits. Conclusion. The complex nature of food addiction. Food addiction is a complex issue that involves a combination of biological, psychological, and environmental factors. Foods high in sugar, fat, and salt, especially when combined with emotional triggers and external influences like marketing, can create addictive behaviors. By understanding what makes certain foods addictive, we can take steps to reduce cravings and develop healthier relationships with food.